Hello everyone and welcome. Different setup today? No, just kidding. Not driving anywhere. I'm just sitting in my yard at the countryside, and I'm using this opportunity because I woke up real early for some reason and I couldn't sleep to finish the video that I've been working on. So I'm just going to do the voiceovers, and I'm in the car because it's the closest thing I have to a sound booth as possible. So without further ado, I will get to recording some voiceovers. It did take a little longer than I expected to get fully set up, but now I am recording. And the first thing on my list, as you can see, is let me explain to you what I'm doing. I am assembling the Leviathan box, and starting of course with the Tyrannids, as you can see. Now I want to give you a complete and full review on my part on the assembly of Leviathan. I saw that a lot of people on the internet have reviewed how they are all monopose and show the different conversions, but that is not what I want to cover in this video and what I want to explain to you. What I want to give you is my honest opinion on how easy it was to assemble these and the problems that I did face, especially as a beginner hobbyist of the wargaming variant. So the main thing out of the box, especially with the Tyrannids, is that they are incredibly easy to get out of the sprue and incredibly easy to clean up. That being said, I have very little mold lines, and all the bits that are left over when you cut them with the pliers are easily scraped, and you have to do very little work. That being said, depending on the quality that you want for your miniatures, despite the fact that this is a horde army, there are many gaps which for a beginner might be a little daunting to see, and which will need to be filled in with milliput or green stuff, which I plan to do later on. Ideally I should be doing this at this step, but this video is already incredibly long, and I've spent assembling this kit a full 24 hours, and that brings me to how long does it take to actually assemble one of these boxes. Wow, this box had 72 miniatures, and it took me, like I said, 24 hours of work to scrape and assemble them and clean them and mount them. So according to the instructions, I did not do any kit bashing on them or anything like that. And I hope the connoisseurs out there have noticed that this video is only 1 hour long, and that I have been doing some major cutting on the editing software. Because otherwise, seeing a video of 24 hours is pretty daunting. Besides that, I'm not doing 24 hours of voiceovers. I just finished the Prime. I'm gonna talk a little bit. I'll catch up with what I'm doing right now. So the Prime was fun, a little difficult to paint, especially to assemble, especially the arms, because I didn't get the order right the first time, and I had to disassemble them. Now I am a beginner, and while I can understand the instructions pretty well, sometimes I get a little confused and miss the order in which I'm supposed to do it, because I can't really be bothered while I'm in the zone to check and to figure out which should go first. Next is the Neurotyrant, I think it's called. I haven't fully learned all the names of all the units yet, but they're good. And again, while it had a lot of finicky parts, and I was quite afraid that I would either bend or snap one of them while assembling this model, because again it looks incredibly fragile. Um, it was surprisingly easy to assemble compared to what I was expecting. Like I said, the spruce came out really easily, and for the entire Tyrannid model, there were very few visible mold lines. Either I got a brand new press for the Tyrannids or something like that, but I was really happy with how they came out, with a few exceptions. Assembling this guy, like I said, is a bit of a chore, and if you have limited dexterity, it might be a problem. It has, like I said, a lot of fragile tendrils, tentacles, whatever you want to call them, and they can be easily snapped off while assembling. Another problem, this one especially since he has a lot of chitin, is getting it to fully blend with the other pieces. There are many gaps, and I plan on filling those with milliput. I've seen recently, because again, I, like you probably, I'm looking at much bigger channels for advice, and I saw that the new shall we say fad, the new best practice, let's go with that, best practice is to actually mix milliput and green stuff. I don't have green stuff, so I'll just be using milliput. Yeah, and that's gonna be my first experience with actually filling in these gaps. I've used it before to create from scratch, as you know, the sword for Sir K, and that didn't turn out great. This should be much easier. Just fill some gaps and make sure that there's a smooth transition between parts. Hopefully that will come out great, and I will be able to paint these soon, but at this rate it will still be a few weeks. I especially loved the way this thing mounted. It had, even though I thought it might be a little finicky, it came out very robust, very robust. Now for the little Neuroloids, these were incredibly easy to simply cut out, do a few. These were actually one of the very few mold lines that I could find on the new Tyrannid models. And yeah, I'm more than happy. They're easy to assemble, and you just plop them on a very small base, and that's it. So overall, great model, easy to assemble, but very finicky. If you push too hard on a tendril, it might snap. Now that might not be a problem, especially if you're into the hobby and have some glue. You will be able to put it back together. But since this is a push fit, many people might not enjoy the fact that you have to glue anything you snap off. But yeah, that's life. Next on, we move to the Screamer Killer, one of the big guys in the set, and this one is again one of the easiest ones to assemble. While it's big, the pieces are big, and there's no problem with the assembly. Again, very few mold lines, and while I really don't get that small claw on his foot, it was really this little tiny thing you had to put separately. You didn't make it in the same mold. It was fun. I honestly think like, oh, this is such a huge model, and you're making me put just one tiny claw on the foot. That was really funny. I found it absolutely amusing. What I want to know is, if anybody knows, or if anybody cares to enlighten me, is why to Games Workshop actually put all these sprues, contact points for the pieces on the edge of the miniatures instead of, especially for these push fit models, instead of on the insides where they would be less visible, less work for you, and if you do make mistakes when cleaning them up, it's much easier to either not fix at all or much easier to fix. Simply, again, like I said, real easy on these, especially on the big ones, because they don't have that many spikes on them, and they also are very, very sturdy. We already played my very first Warhammer Only War mission on tabletop game, and they held out. Of course, we used great plastic, not even prime plastic, so it was just so that I can get a feel and my friend can get a feel for how the game is played, because again, it was our very first game. Fun, very fun. I can tell you that the Space Marines did win, but we also really did not use any psychic abilities that much. And I'm pretty sure we made like a ton of mistakes, but live and learn. And again, it's our first game. I want to see somebody in the comments that say that their first game they did not make any mistakes. I really want to see that. Like I said, the big guy, the Screamer Killer, did have some mold lines and some gaps to fill, and again, I'll have to fix them. All of the big models really have gaps. Well, for example, one of the tiny ones that have gaps so little that I'm not going to bother filling are the ones that I'm assembling right now, the Von Ryan Leapers. These little guys are absolutely amazing. They do have some very small tendrils and that can be easily snapped off, but I didn't have any problems with that. They're easy to clean, and for once all the contact points were mostly on claws, and on claws it's very, very easy to clean, and if you make a mistake while cleaning the claws, it can just be, like a chip. He's been in battle. He got his claw stuck somewhere, and when he pulled it out, it came out. That's perfectly fine. It was not the case for these guys, but it can happen, and it happens in nature. So, yeah. Again, they're really fun, except they're a bit spiky and they do hurt the fingers. I saw that a lot of people were complaining about it. I didn't have problems like this with most models, especially the big ones. No, not at all. These little guys, they do indeed have this bit of a problem with tiny pieces that are spiky, and you have to push them in, and it might hurt your fingers a bit. Sorry about that. Like I mentioned before during the intro of this video, it's really morning and I haven't fully woken up yet, but I did decide to make these voiceovers because if I'm not gonna do it now, I might never get the chance. Alright. Oh, the big sites. I love those. I honestly wanted them to be like, I have all of those extended. Some of them are not, and it gives a dynamism. It makes them look much more dynamic. But I honestly would have wanted that all to have like extended sights, claws, big. I know it's not realistic, but I think it would have looked cool. But I like them anyway. Cool. Can't wait to actually play as the Tyrannids, because I played Space Marines during the battle that I did with my friend, but I can't wait to have a go at them as well. Now the Von Ryan Leapers are 3. I assembled all of them. But for the sake of this video not taking, like I mentioned, a lot longer, I'm just gonna show one of each. And with that, I moved on to the big guy, the Psychophage, which is absolutely bonkers to build. And this is one of the models that I first encountered some of the bigger problems while building these. While the tendrils on this guy are much sturdier than previous Tyrannids that I assembled, the gaps needed to fill this guy are huge. You can see them in the fast forward of this, so I'm gonna do a lot of milliputting. And also, here's the kicker, I felt that it didn't really combine as well as it should. I actually tried adding some glue, you can see, to make sure that it stuck right along the edges. So yeah, this was my first attempt at gap filling, sort of, to make the plastic, because being plastic glue, it melts the plastic a little and bonds it together. And of course I tried using my finger to smooth it over, and after that I will use my the back of my knife to scrape it a little bit. But yeah, this guy really needs a lot of work to get it to really good quality. But he's worth it. He looks absolutely amazing. I have nothing to say to that. I absolutely loved the Space Marine arm that he's dragging towards his mouth with his tendrils. Of course, being a Space Wolves fan, I'm definitely not gonna paint that arm as a Space Wolf. I'm gonna paint it as an Ultramarine. Of course I am, and my wolves will be coming to show the Ultra Smurfs how it's done. Alright, the legs. What I don't really like about this model is one of its back legs is on top of a stone pillar, which I honestly don't understand why they felt the need to put it there. It's out of nowhere. They should have just left that whole body a bit lower. If they wanted to raise it, just raise the leg and make it push further. And I honestly don't understand. Out of the base of the model, there's just a tiny stone pillar jutting out. If they really wanted to, they could have just added a bit more plastic and make those ruins bigger. Give the monster a reason to step over those. My personal opinion. And overall, again, it's a great model. Surprisingly, in fact, I have a bit of an arachnophobia. This model does not give me the jilly willies. So yeah, it honestly does not. I am totally afraid of spiders, but this model is absolutely fine. It might be that it only has 6 legs instead of 8, so there's that. Moving on to the Termagants. These are a pain to assemble. Besides the fact that there's 20 of them. Oh, good God. Oh, yeah, they're horrible. They're absolutely horrible to assemble, because they have the most mold lines that I have ever seen. You have to. I had to spend like half an hour on each of these. So half an hour, 20 models, that's 10 hours. 10 hours just to assemble all of the Termagants. Wow, that is a lot, because you have to scrape, you have to make sure that everything is fine, and then go back and take another piece and see how it assembles, and so on and so forth. Yeah, just the scraping part is the longest part that it takes while assembling these. But again, they're just great, they're fun, and what can I say? I haven't seen the old because I understand that this is a new model. I like it. Um, I understand that the older ones were a bit more. I don't know what to describe them as. But other people have that, but everybody is of the opinion that these are way better. So I don't see why I should be the one that comes and ruins the party. They look good, they feel good. I especially liked how the arms have that little socket. The guns have that little socket where the other arm fits in perfectly and without having anything to fill any gap. It just looks awesome. Oh yeah. I decided not to board their weapons. I did this for all of the Space Marines. I didn't. At some point, I was considering boarding all of their weapons, giving them a hole. But I was thinking, since this is an organic weapon, it should have like a membrane that opens and shuts. I'm considering painting it in such a way, but I would rather not have, like a sphincter on all my Termagants weapons at the front. Though, if you think about it, that's kind of what it should be, because especially when one of these would actually shoot, it would create a pressure and shoot the live ammunition through such a sphincter. All right, enough. Moving on to, I believe these are the Neurogaunts, and I'm only showing one out of the 11 or 10 that I'm assembling. Yeah, it's the Neuro thingies. I don't think I've shown how the Reaper Swarms are assembled. I think most of the footage was not focused properly or out of frame. But back to the these guys were rather finicky. They are smaller than the Termagants, and I honestly did not see their point other than like cannon fodder, and I was really bad at rolling with my artillery, and they kind of sort of lived. But yeah, they weren't very effective. Much they died quite quickly. They charged my sergeant and they died. Right. Next were the Barbgaunts, and from all the miniatures on the Tyrannid side, I can rightfully say I like these the least. I don't know what I don't like about them, but I just don't like the models. Again, this is a personal preference. On the tabletop, they perform quite well, being one of the last units to survive, but I don't know, there's just something I don't like how they look. For assembly, they're pretty okay. Very few mold lines, they're pretty spiky, and you have to go through all of their spines, because apparently somehow, at least for one of them, if not all of them, the molds lines actually appeared in between their back spines, their big thingies over there. And yeah, that's basically all I have to say about these guys, other than I'm not particularly fond of them. I think it's the asymmetry with their big guns on only one side. Other than that, I love their heads, their faces, the whatever, but I don't like those massive guns. There's just something that on a level does not work with me. To assemble, they're pretty easy. Just snap in a leg and to the body, and then a sorry, the body, the lower body with the upper torso, then an extra leg, and then the gun, and just mount everything. I found out towards the end that sometimes it's better to go a little ahead and mount them on the bases as early as possible, and then continue the assembly from there. It offers a bit more stability, and you might also be able to let the miniature rest on the table if you want to take a break or anything like that, instead of putting it on the side. Just a personal preference, nothing that would damage it or anything like that. But yeah, and that is a Barbgaunt complete. And with that, I believe I have finished the entire Tyrannid model. And moving on, we will be going to the Space Marines, starting of course with the Terminator Captain. I can't believe I'm doing this all in one shot. Alright, let's keep the thing going. As I said, with all of the Space Marines, I took the time and bored their weapons, drilled holes for their weapons, especially for the bolters, since they have both the muzzle, those muzzle brakes, those flash suppressors that need you to do 2 holes, and I absolutely love that. It's something that I challenge myself with, and unlike when I did the Tau, where I made a lot of mistakes with their weapons and almost broke a few of them, I am pleased to say that with these ones I had like 1 or 2 mistakes tops, and they were incredibly easy to fix. So these were much easier to fix. Of course, now you're saying, well, I see you're using both that bit you have instead of a proper drill holder, and that is because, and your hand on a drill. Now the thing is, I want to be as neat as possible, and for that I used both a larger drill bit to give the emphasis that it's chafed. I don't know how to chamfered. Let's go with that, chamfered. I think that's right. The assembly went well, and most of the mold lines were easily removed, as well as any bits and pieces that were left over from the cutting. Next is the Librarian, and another easy one to assemble, and again, and though his face did took a while for me to understand how it was all coming together, despite me having the instructions right in front of me. You can see that I'm using the magnifying glasses. Since I bought them, they have been the best addition to my hobby that I could have possibly made. They make my painting and assembling and everything else just great. Again, with the Space Marines, you will see that I spent a lot more time cleaning them up rather than the Tyrannids. For some reason, either I'm seeing much better, much more mold lines and tiny the leftovers from cutting from the sprue, or I'm getting better at seeing them, and I wanted them to look even better. How the model came to assemble, it was easy, but difficult for all the finicky parts around his head, and also I tried as much as possible to keep them in sub-assemblies. I didn't push them all the way because I want to be able to easily paint them. So I tried as much as possible with most models to not push their heads in, to be able to easily remove their heads, and so on and so forth. Now for the Terminator Captain, I believe that I left the arms easily detachable, only slightly put together, just so that when I prime them in zenithal and everything, they all get from the same angles, all the parts, but then can be easily removed in order for me to paint them and reach all the tiny little spots. I believe that this is a bonus with push fit models, because you can partially assemble them without and they can stick together without them having you to glue them at the end or do anything like that. Again, the bolter on his arm was drilled, and I really took my time because I didn't want to miss any of these bolters while drilling them. What can I say about the Librarian? I can't wait to try and paint them. And because I also have Njal, the Stormcaller, and he's going to be like his apprentice or something like that, I really want to do some kit bashing and at least for the Librarian, at least a wolf belt in there somewhere. For the Terminator Captain, I don't know. I'm gonna see what I'm gonna do when I get to the wolves. First, I have to paint the Tyrannids, but I'm definitely sure that, especially with all the runes on his armor and everything, I can't wait to see this guy as a space wolf. Because again, he has a force axe. He's like the space wolves, the space wolfiest of all the Leviathan boxes. And I'm definitely going to try and scrounge up some bits from the other Space Wolves kits that I have. While I'm on the subject, and I have nothing really much more important to say about the Space Wolves, the Space Marine Librarian at the moment, because he's not Space Wolf yet. I wanted to share with you my idea of what's coming next, and that would be finishing the Tau and then assembling the rest of the Space Wolves that I have. Alright, enough. Let's get back. Next up on the list, the let me just make sure because I don't remember. Yes, the Apothecary Biologis. The Apothecary Biologis. This model, out of all of them, you would think that this guy shouldn't give me that much trouble, and you would think that it would be his backpack that's the biggest problem. No, you would be wrong. Cleaning the first bits is quite easily. They didn't go overboard with the sprue contact points or anything like that, and it cleans up quite easily, but you can see it on the body right there, on the top of his gorget. There's a little light. That light decided to break. Well, decided to. I most definitely, when pushing something, pushed it too hard and it broke. I saw that the head was easily painted on it, so I think I attached this one, or I don't remember. But for the rest of the heads, I found a simple solution for me to easily be able to remove them and keep them, paint them separately. I will get to that in a moment. But yes, I kid you not, like an hour trying to glue back the little finicky light on that I broke, and it did take quite a while. But in the end, I got him assembled. He's not as fragile as I'm making him out to be. Once he's assembled, he's pretty sturdy, and there's little chance of you grabbing any of the fragile bits. Sorry, I hope you didn't get to see that on the camera or hear that, but I yawned again because, again, like I mentioned, it's really early in the morning. And I'm sitting in my car and I'm getting a little stiff. Again, drilling the barrel, really easy once you get into a system, into a rhythm, and it helps to use an X-Acto knife like I did, like a scalpel, to get the drill head to sit exactly where you want it. Some of the very first models I tried this with, I did not do that, and it went all over the place. And take your time to find the exact middle, because especially my drill bits are incredibly sharp, and if they're too close to the edge, they will cut the edge and you will be left with a off-centered a hole that rips out and looks really, really bad. Other than that, assembling the carriage, again, sub-assemblies, especially for this guy, definitely the sample he's carrying, I want to leave aside to be able to paint underneath it. I saw that a lot of much more experienced hobbyists than me tried and on object source lighting from the sample. I'm thinking I might want to try that, but at the same time I'm really scared. But I'm gonna try. Wish me luck. It will probably be a really bad experiment, but how else am I going to learn? Moving on to the sergeant. Oh my god. The lieutenant in Phobos Armour. Anyway, this guy's a beast. I had this guy on the tabletop. He faced an onslaught of 3 Von Ryan's Leapers, got into a swarm of Neurogaunts, was completely attacked by the Neurotyrant. He survived all of those. He was on 1 wound at the end of the game, but he survived all of those, killed like half of the Neurogaunts unit, took out the Von Ryan's Leaper, and in the end, I think he killed. No, he didn't kill the Neurotyrant. But damn, this he was a beast. He dealt damage left and right. Anyway, back to his assembly. Quite easily actually. Most of it was absolutely fine. No spiky bits. No things that were difficult to paint. I decided to paint his arm, to glue his arm at some point, because it looked a little wobbly. I'm not sure if it will show up on the video, and this is one of the ones that I don't think will need to to have sub-assemblies, because you can reach all of the parts to paint everything. I'm sorry if you hear some banging. My father-in-law is working in the yard, and like I said, I am in my car. It should muffle quite a bit, but he decided that he can't wait any longer and wants to do part of his uh, routine. And I'm not going to pause the video because there's plenty of and I'm almost going to do it in one take. So we're talking about an entire hour of recording here. My voice is already getting a little dry, but I like it. I will fight anyone who says I don't have a very good deep voice when I wake up in the morning. Alright, and back to the topic at hand. I'm not a fan of his armor. I don't like the Phobos armor. Don't ask me why. Again, I just don't. I don't think it really looks Space Marine-ish. So I'm definitely gonna have to cut this because somebody decided to start hammering. Oh, great. Well, this is the end of the Lieutenant in Phobos armor. He looks great. Dual blades out and everything. Alright, moving on. Sternguard Veterans. Sternguard Veterans were fun to paint, fun to assemble. Though there was a problem because I didn't know if I could easily paint them, especially since they're all in profile, looking off and presenting as little profile to the enemy as possible, from where they are pointing their guns. I absolutely love this because it shows off their experience. They're all to one side, looking to one side and firing to one side, making as little profile, presenting as little profile towards the enemy as possible. That being said, due to that, their heads are also turned, and it might be difficult for me to paint their helmets if in between the helmet and the gorget. So I decided to clip their heads, and so I clipped the little pegs that they're using. The backpacks were easily assembled and put on. There is a slight thing with one of them with the, I don't know, with the cross on top of whatever that is. It's a bit more difficult to assemble, but it's not that big of a problem. And as you can see, the head I left mobile so that I can point and do everything. This is the sergeant, and after that I moved on to the big chunky Ballistus Dreadnought. I did this because it was really late in the night. I did not want to make a lot of noise, and I was hoping to get one miniature done because I had a bad day, and not necessarily bad, but tiring day, and I just wanted to relax a little bit, and I wanted an easy one to do. And this is indeed an incredibly easy model to make. The few sprue contacts are easily cleaned up, and there are virtually no mold lines that I found. There were a few, but they were easily removed with the back of the hobby knife and incredibly visible, the few that there are. So making them or assembling it is very easy. You just push it, and I kind of get why people don't want that monopose, but this little dreadnought guy, what pose do you want for him? He has a las cannon and a missile launcher. End of story. He's not going to, you don't want to pose him with like his claw in a certain way or anything like that. I get it, but I'm more than happy with this guy. He's big, he's chunky, he's fluffy, he's you name it. And once on the tabletop, he's good, he's great. The Tyrannid player was unable to kill this guy. He tried everything. He tried putting it, shooting it. He tried milling it, and nothing. He wasn't even phased. It was okay. I can't wait to actually face him and see how I'm gonna do it. I'm probably just going to try and get the Screamer Killer right next to him as soon as possible. And with that, my recording session has ended because I can hear my kids waking up, and I will have to stop this recording right here. Okay, second attempt. Hopefully this one will work out well, and I'm sorry for the quality of the audio if it changes. Not that it was the best so far, but back at my apartment, because the internet failed on my home PC and I couldn't finish the recording remotely, so it had to wait a few more days, and that is why my schedule is all out of whack. Cleaning up the feet it was pretty easily, especially since it had a lot of straight surfaces. No major issues. Overall, cleaning the Dreadnought was no biggie at all. Very few mold lines and very easy to assemble. What more can I say? I can't wait to paint this guy as a space wolf. I can say that maybe it's not very, dynamic with the feet, just pretty plain level, so to speak, because that tiny technical rock is a little too tiny for my liking, and it doesn't give the impression that he could easily overcome most terrain features, but it's fine. And again, I like it because he's supposed to be like a mobile heavy weapons platform, and he does that. That glass cannon and the missile launcher really take out a chunk of the smaller Tyrannids, especially when they're all together, especially when you're targeting smaller units. The missile launchers, the frag ones, are perfect. I hadn't gotten a chance to use like the crack profile on the rockets, but yeah, maybe next time. Though there was a problem that I realized now as I was editing this video, and that I did more research and read more about the books. The Leviathan box does not really fit well into any size category predefined, so while the Space Marines have exactly 1000 points, give or take, with if you take one upgrade for your leader, for your warlord, the Tyrannids are way underpowered. I initially got the points wrong on my estimation when I put them into the Warhammer app, and I thought they were pretty evenly matched, thinking that the Warhammer Leapers are 3 units instead of 1, so they came up to 1000 points. But then I corrected the mistake, and they're down to 820 or 860 points, which is woefully underpowered versus the Space Marine contingent. Now, this is odd, especially because you can't fight a 1000 point versus 1000 point battle. But then I took a look at the battle force, well, give me 1 second. The combat patrol. That's the combat patrol. The combat patrol. They contain The Leviathan box contains 2 combat patrols and some extra units. And when we played with the entire Tyrannid force on the battle map provided by the Leviathan box set. And it was really crowded because there were many units on a very tiny space. Then I took a look at what is in a battle force, in a Leviathan combat patrol, and I saw that, wait a minute, hold on, that's way less units, and you're not even supposed to play with this guy, with this big chunky guy. You're supposed to play with just like one squad of Terminators, the Terminator captain, and the Librarian, and the squad of Infernus Marines. And for the Terminids, just the Prime and the unit of Termagants, the Warhammer Leapers, the Psychophage, I think, and something else. And a few things like that. Anyway, they should be much more balanced, and they didn't seem that big on a battle map. For 1,000 points, I should have had a double table twice as big. We'll see what is going to happen in the future when I get a bigger table, when I make a bigger table, and when I can play on a much grander scale with all of them. But for my next battle, I plan to try out just a combat patrol versus a combat patrol setup. Okay, back to the thing. Assembling the rocket launcher was pretty easy, and I didn't really need to clean a lot of the parts that I ultimately chose to clean. I'm not talking about the front ends, which I'm doing right now, but these will cover up most of the sprue contact points, and you don't need to really clean them that well. Just do a decent job of it so that they can fit as neatly as possible. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward, and I particularly like the fact that at least the weapons can do a little swivel, and you can at least rotate them, and they look great while doing this. For the last cannon, it was fun because I got to drill the barrels with a really big drill bit, and that is the most fun I had, though it was indeed quite difficult. And because it was so difficult and I didn't quite got a grip on it the way I wanted it to, there were a few problems because I dropped my drill a few times, and it is quite heavy because it's not a dedicated hobby drill, and it made a lot of noise. And as I said, this was the middle of the night, and my wife was trying to sleep in the same room, and she got a little upset that I was banging in the middle of the night while she was trying to sleep. But all turned out well. I apologized and was a lot more careful, though again I did drop it a few times, and I am truly sorry about that. Honey, please don't make that. Alright, I need to find some way, or just get a better drill for such things. As you can see, now I'm starting the drilling process, getting ready all my drill bits, marking the exact spots, drilling with a very tiny, and then trying my luck with the big chunker of a drill bit. And let me tell you, it's not easy doing this without something that is designed for this. And it can be difficult to start, and once you start, it still can be difficult to cut, despite the fact that they were pretty sharp and they're designed for metal. But yeah, I'm not going to spend a lot of money on a battery operated tiny one that I saw other YouTubers use. This is fine for me for now, especially since I don't have that many heavy weapons. So yeah. But once I drilled these holes, to my satisfaction, this was the last step in completing the Dreadnought. There were absolutely no gaps that needed filling for this guy. Most of the seams that would be generated occur either where they're not visible or exactly where two armor plates would meet, and it's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. No gap filling. That's the beauty of this particular model. I will not be needing to do any milliputting for this one, which is absolutely great by me because he's a really big one. If I had to do this for this guy as well as the Psychophage and the Screamer Killer and some of the Terminators and some of the other Tyrannids as well as the Terminators, that would have been very, very, very odd and nasty and a lot of work. But it came out fine. Finally, I was able to make some headway, and as you can see, I'm making progress, found a bit that works, and started drilling, and then just enlarged the exit of the barrels. With that done, I assembled him, and he is ready. Yes, I can finally be happy with it. Next on the list are the Terminators, and while these are all a bit different, one has a power sword. I assemble, I think, the sergeant first because I did the one with the power sword. I will, like I did with the other units, just be showing you how I did one. I didn't like the fact that that contact point was on a armor plate, which I did scrape, and I'm happy with how it came out with smoothness. But in the end, it could have been in a different spot, honestly, because if you're not very experienced, you can end up with either a hole in your armor plate or with a different sort of problem, or with a bit of plastic remaining. Right, the shoulder pads were okay-ish to clean up, surprisingly, but still, I don't understand why they couldn't have put those contact points somewhere less visible, so to speak. Maybe in a different location. I also didn't really like the fact that some of the shoulder pads had to be constructed in two pieces, with the even though it should have been one straight continuous piece. Of course, as I did with the captain and all the others, I drilled their barrels for their bolters, and everything is fine. There's just something that loses its realism if I just leave them as is. I saw that a lot of others don't take the time to do this, but for me it loses a bit of realism. So I rather spend a few more minutes to take my time and make it seem much more realistic for me than just leave it as is. Overall, I liked their pose. I can't particularly say that the sword pointing down is a problem, and I especially like that they are always looking towards where they're shooting, and also I left all their heads unattached. I I put them only a little bit inside, so that they will be once again much easier to paint and everything. You may have noticed that except the Terminator Captain, I used absolutely all of the variants with helmets that I could. Even, and of course the Lieutenant in Phobos armor. Because not necessarily because I don't want to paint faces, but I also find that those helmets are absolutely awesome, especially the Terminator heads. They are the best, so they would lose a little something for me if I did not use those absolutely amazing heads. Finally on the list are the Infernus Marines, and these are the guys with the flamers. And apparently I did a boo-boo while editing this. There was a lot of parts I should have cut, or maybe, but it doesn't matter. There's plenty of footage to go around. I shouldn't have lingered on that shot of the sprue. Cleaning it up again is pretty okay. There was a contact point again on the barrel of the weapon, the part where the grill of the flamer. It's okay, and all of them have that. That's not a big problem for me, but again, it's a pretty visible point, and unless you know how to do it, it might end up with a little bit of visual problems. I think this is, like I mentioned, the first head that I took off the sprue according to the instructions, but then I realized that these guys actually do have a helmeted variant, so I used that one instead. And like I did with the Sternguard Veterans, I believe I cut off their heads, their contact point, the little push fit thingy that that sticks their head in a certain position, so I can switch it wherever I want. I decided to glue these two parts because there was a little gap that wasn't fully holding on back there, and I tried to blend it as much as possible to make sure that there was no gap. And even though I'm using his head, I think I'm sure I changed it later on because none of them keep an unhelmeted head on. Yeah, like I said, no other issues. There was one major thing, and this is the final thought that I have. I think the last two Infernus Marines had a problem with their pauldron. Due to some quirk of the molding process, their pauldrons had a lot of extra material, and in order for me to give them a perfect trim, I had to cut into the pauldrons quite a lot and excavate about 1 or maybe even 2 millimeters of plastic just to get the trim flush all around their pauldrons. But that was minor cosmetic surgery, and I did it with just the hobby knife with the scalpel, and it was fine, no problems whatsoever. I don't really think I have footage of that either way because it was really easy, and it wasn't that hard. This is the final bolt pistol that I have to drill a barrel for because I'm not crazy to drill holes for the fire blasters. So with this brings my review over to an end, and I believe that the Leviathan box was truly worth it for its value, though maybe next time Games Workshop consider balancing the forces a bit more, and maybe make it add as a bonus a battle map that can be used with all of the models, because right now I can't, I don't have a battle map ready to go, even though I bought one of the most expensive kits that can be used with all of them all at once. Alright, thank you all for watching. I will leave you with one final overview of all the miniatures in their box, and I hope to see you all in the next video. I truly hope you've enjoyed this review, and hopefully you will like, share, and subscribe. Thank you all, and I will see you in the next one.